Democrats will have to decide between two candidates in the race for Georgia's governor. It's the battle of the Staceys, with Stacey Evans running against Stacey Abrams.
And as 11 Alive's Naima Abdullahi shows us, there are some major differences in this head-to-head matchup.
The countdown to May 22nd is on, and so is the battle of the Staceys, Georgia's two Democratic candidates running for governor, both lawyers and with many years of experience as state reps. There's another Stacey, if you want to be technical, in this race. Who could that possibly be, right? Lowell Stacey Casey Cagle, but, well, he goes by Casey, so we'll focus on the other two Staceys. And here's the thing, if Abrams wins, she would become the first African-American governor in the state of Georgia and the first African-American woman governor in the entire nation. Evans, just like Abrams, would become the first woman governor in our state, so that's two different barriers that could easily break if they do get the nomination. So unlike the mayoral race in the city of Atlanta, which leans Democrat, the statewide gubernatorial race leans Republican, with 72% of counties in Georgia going red for Nathan Deal during the 2014 election, even though he won about 53% of all votes casted. That election looking quite similar to President Donald Trump's victory in our state. But could this be the year Georgia votes blue? These two women sure hope so. Now, Abrams has been putting all her energy into voter registration, targeting the state's non-voters and minority voters. Evans, the first in her family to go to college, has been advocating for enhancing the Hope Scholarship, making technical colleges tuition-free with her slogan, "Bring Back Hope." Abrams wants to expand Medicaid and invest in the quality of public education. Evans revitalized the scholarship funding and raised the minimum wage. So who's backing up these two candidates? Abrams is endorsed by Congressman John Lewis, Congressman David Scott, and Hank Johnson. Evans also has many endorsements as well, like former Governor Roy Barnes, DeKalb County DA Sherry Boston, the Georgia Federation of Teachers, and State Rep Keisha Waits. So what's the likelihood that a Stacey could be the next governor of Georgia? Well, the probability is higher if you factor in the other Stacey. Whoever gets the party's nomination will be one step closer to making history. Naima Abdullahi, 11 Alive News.